Okay, g'day guys. I'm going to explain structure inside of PlusSpec and how it all comes about. Timber framing, changes, steel beams and trusses. Okay, so here I have just an empty SketchUp model. You notice there's no layers or anything like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a wall type and just explain the walling first. I'll make it quick, guys. There's a lot more detailed tutorials on our website. Okay, so I'm choosing a veneer structure here, and I can go in here and at the start I can change my stud spacings. At the moment I'm working in metric, but you can write in feet or inches or whatever it is, and you have a drop down list according to the country that you are using PlusSpec in. So I'm just going to use a standard timber framing in my local area, yet you can quickly go back up to this tool up here and you can change your location to what timbers would be available in there. By default 600 millimeters or 2 feet is a standard framing size for a majority of construction, so therefore we've set it as a default, and you don't have to set this. This is how it will come out when you draw. Number of top plates, the number of bottom plates, nogging or blocking, which is basically the internal timbers. You can turn it on and off. Okay, you can also set the materials on the external, but at the moment we're talking about framing. So I'm actually going to draw a wall now. Okay, so I'm going to go to the bottom and go submit. Okay, no, this is not going to be the Opera House or the Guggenheim, that's for sure, but I think it'll give you a good explanation of what happens here. Okay, so we'll just quickly just draw, say, I don't know, shift into here. Okay, so first time it's opened and it has a large concrete block on the outside of that particular wall. Now, you can't see any framing here. You can see the internal lining. You can see where the framing would be and insulation inside of there. And that was all in the materials box, and that's another tutorial. We have this scene tool, which essentially allows you to navigate and work with your model. So I'm going to go OK, and it's going to create a whole heap of scenes for me. Okay, and it went back to, say, my plan view. I'm going to go here to structure. Okay. And inside of here, the structure was now created with the size of the timber in there and the spacing of the timber. I can go back and change these individually. Okay, so 600 mil or 2 feet, depending on what you write in. Okay, and I'm just going to get rid of that. Now, there's several things that I can do. I'm going to go back to all, which will now show me, you can see slightly through the thickness of the internal lining that we have timber work inside of there. Now I can actually go and select a wall and I can change the stud spacing. So if I went back to my walls and said, well, I wanted to change the stud spacings and maybe the number of top plates, I can do that quite quickly. So I just go in here and I say, okay, well, I want the spacings to be 1.5 feet or 450 millimeters. And I can even change the size of the timbers. So I might say I'll make these timber 90 by 45, which would be 4 by 2. Okay, and I'll make my top plate to 1 and go submit. I'll go back to my structure and just have a look. Right, so essentially what's happened here is we have changed the size of the timber, the number of top plates, according to what it is. Now, we don't have to go back to the all view to do that, so let's have a look over here. So say here I went, okay, I want to put a window in. It's going to create the structural differences between this. So because I'm only looking at structure, I won't be looking at a window. You'll notice that it put in a lintel over the top. Now these lintels can be changed in size, and I can show you how to do that later. Okay, and even if I split a wall, so I could say here and go, right, I'm going to split a wall, so walls and split wall here and here, and go enter. I now have, you can see that I have a stud change, and that's how we would actually build it on site. I can now go and push and pull these walls, and you know, usually you'd probably do this with everything turned on, and it's gone and put in the extra studs that were required to do this particular type of work, and these walls are still parametric. Okay, so I guess that gives you a good explanation of structure there. I'm going to go back to all and have a bit of a look at what happened there. So it changed the walls, it redid all my cavities, and it added extra information. The most important thing for this, I guess, if you're doing feasibility studies, is how much cost difference does that make, and that's simply going up here and associating cost and then doing a takeoff here. That's for another tutorial. I'm going to go back to my structure, and I'm going to add in some floor joists. Now I can do it in several different ways. I can do it individually. So what I need to do is tell it where I want my floor joist. So I can say, okay, well, I want that floor joist here, and I can see those two walls don't line up. I really think that these walls should line up, so I'm going to push and pull that wall. I can use my right click menu, or I can simply just go here and say, right, this is what I want to do, and I can go to shift, and I can type in, or I can type in a measurement that I wanted to do. So I've just gone shift here, and this is where I want it to line up. Now you can see that I'll have a better constructible building, okay, and I could have joists in several locations. I won't get too caught up in this, guys. Let's say we go to here, and I want joists here. You can see that we're going to have some issues there, that the house hasn't been designed to suit joists, but this is a really good way to do it. Okay, and here, now I might want different joist locations and even different stair locations here, or joist directions. So for instance here, if I wanted my joist to run this way, I can simply just say, well, all of them are going to run this way. I could delete this line. I'll do this twice for you. Okay, I can go back up to my flooring tool, and inside of here I can choose my joists and my spacing. Okay, so my joist spacing at the moment is 600. I'm going to make it back to 450, and as I said before, you can make it imperial. Choose the sizes according to your location, as I said before. I'll use this one here. And do I want bearers? Well, in this particular case, no, because I'm doing first floor joists. And I can change the spacings of bearers as well if it was ground floor. Okay, and now all I need to do is tell it which way I want the joist to go. Right, so I'm going to go submit, and I want my joist to go this way. Okay, it put my joists in and it automated the way those joists went in, and you can see in a couple of locations I need to move joists, and I might also want to make double joists, and this is something that I would usually change at the end of the job, because at the moment we're just detailing. Okay, and over here we can see that we probably want our joist to run this way. So go back to my joist tool. Over to here, it's going to remember the last settings that I chose, the material that I chose. Go submit, and I'm going to run my joist this way. And over here, I'm going to run my joist this way. Now, it also comes to the point where we're going to need steel in some particular jobs that don't have enough bearing, and that's more of an engineer's job. Yet I think a lot of us understand that that's going to happen, and I can see from this drawing I would need probably steel to go through here. So now I need to actually go and grab myself some steel. Now the best thing about this is that we can go up here and we can select some steel that we think might be right, and I can basically scroll through these steels and say, well, I'm going to use a PFC, a T-bar, a universal beam, and go submit. Okay, now I have a piece of steel, and as soon as I click that piece of steel inside the model, it's allowing me to change the size of this steel. So I can go and say, well, I surmise I'm going to use this particular type of steel. Galvanized, I probably don't need it because it's inside, and it's a beam. Do I want to show the weight? Yes. I can now go submit, but you can see that that steel's not running the right way. I can turn that steel around 90 degrees, and I can move it to where it should go to hold the load, and I can also put in steel columns and posts to hold this up. I won't get too involved in this here because I think it's just a bit of an overview, and I've had a lot of questions about it. Okay, so I'm going to run my steel to here. You can see that that steel is too short. I'm going to use the scale tool inside of Sketchup, or I could just get a measurement. Okay, so you need to be careful. Some things you can scale and some you can't. So I'm going to dimension this from here to here, and I got it 5783. So I go and click on my steel, and I write in 5783. Obviously, metric would be different. Right, and now I have my piece of steel in there. I can also see that there's a problem there. The steel didn't line up there, so I'm going to need another piece of steel in there. I think it's just repetitious, and you can see what I was doing there. Okay, so I go back to all, and I have a look at what I have here. It put my flooring on, which I could have chosen in my materials in there before, but I think the idea is to show you how this works. These can be changed, and the spacings can be changed at any time. They can be above the face or below the face. Okay, so I'll probably just save myself a bit of work here. What I'm going to do is basically just put my top floor on top here, just so I can move it up. Or I could, actually what I'll do is I'll redraw it in a different construction method, say, or a different material on the top. Okay, so we'll still use the same construction method. Standard just means is it a sloping or a skillion roof or a gable roof. My timbers, I might go back into here and say, well, I want 2 top plates, and I'm going to make them out of, yeah, I think that'll be okay. I know in America you don't use nogging, and you might use it for your sheathing on the outside for joins. So you can leave it in or leave it out. Okay, I'm going to go, actually one other thing that I need to do here, I can see that my bricks need to drop down the distance of my floor joist, and I can read on the side of there that they're 290 plus 20mm floor. I'm going to need a 310mm drop down. So I'm going to go down to my manual overrides, and I'm going to put a drop down 310mm, and at the top you'll also probably have a roof on there, and I'm going to guess I'm going to put a 22-degree roof in here and maybe a 280mm drop down. I can change my cavity as well if I choose, and I'm going to go and just change the type of brick at the top here. And there's a couple of ways you can do this. In this particular, I'm using a nostril brick, and I can type in, I don't know, CL, see if something comes up. I don't know what type of bricks we've got in here. Maybe we'll use, say, barrel. Okay, so barrel blue, barrel brown, barrel green, whatever it might be. Grey, or I can just simply scroll through and say, okay, well, what brick would look the best in this particular, and I can open up and I can look at ranges inside of these bricks. I'm going to choose this one. You'll notice it went down here, and this can be done throughout PlusSpec. And I'm just going to trace. You'll notice by default it draws from the frame. I can change that location yet. Let's just quickly get this done for you so we can get an understanding of how the structure works, and after this I'll put some trusses in for you as well. Okay, so basically all I'm doing is tracing around my flooring, which I created from the faces that you saw me drawing there before, and go to here, and the last one is going to join up over here. Okay, give it a second. It's drawn my walls up. Now you can see that those bricks had a different thickness. I can change my cavity to make them work downstairs, increase the cavity size or reduce it, it doesn't matter. Okay, and you'll see that I also had the drop off that I had in there. If I ran a section through here, and the section, there is a scene set up top here for sections, but I'm going to create one from scratch. And I might say, okay, I want to run a section, say here, and I'll move that section along a little bit. Right, you'll see that inside of those sections we have our joist locations and directions changing very, very quickly. And I can turn this off to have a little bit better look. Alright, so I actually have a section cut through the model wherever it is I wanted it to be. Okay, I'm going to undo that, move it back, get rid of it. Okay, and obviously if you run a section through, say, a window, you can see that we'll have our details in there about how it would go together, and a lintel that holds up the brickwork there. Alright, okay, I'll just undo that. So Control Z undoes. Now I have to go and do my roofing. Okay, so the best thing when all walls are joined together, so if I clicked here and went right click, select connector walls, and I can select the connector walls. It's actually sitting down below the screen there, guys. Right, you notice that all the walls are joined together. If you're using different construction methods, you might need to join them together. I can also right click and walls, and I can create a face from the walls, or I could do it manually if I wanted to. Generate face from walls, roof face from walls, or roof from walls. I'm going to go roof from walls because it's going to save me one click. It's now giving me the option to go and put in the pitch of the roof. So I'm going to just say 22 degrees here. And if you work in, you might work in ratios, just click on ratio instead. Okay, choose the type of roof we're going to put on. I'm going to put, say, a concrete tile on here, and you can go down and choose your materials and so on. We have our eave overhangs, our fascia height, rafter heights, and so on. And this is all important, and it's something that an architect should know. And if I ran a section through there now, you'll notice that there won't be any timber inside of the roof just yet, because there's two different types of construction. So let's run my section again now. Okay, you can see inside the roof and everything like that. Okay, so I now have the ability to add in trusses. Turn my section planes off there. Okay, so I can just either hide the roof, or I can go to roof off up here, and I can start to draw in trusses, or I could actually go to all here, and if I was going to be a pitch roof, I can simply keep clicking until I get all of these faces to be blue, or I could just have rafters in some sections. So what I might do in this instance here is actually just have rafters, say on this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay, I go back to my roof tool and then I go and tell it what spacing I want my rafters to be, and before I had in there 90 millimeters, which is 4 inches, and I can put my batten thicknesses and everything in there, and my eaves overhang, so this was 600 from memory. Do you want a bird's mouth? I'd only need a bird's mouth if it was going to be greater than the height in here. Go submit. Okay, it takes a little bit of work. The computer I'm using is a laptop. It's reasonable spec. I think it has about 8 gig of RAM. And with this particular computer, when it's doing hard work, it says I don't like it. And probably because I've got a lot of files open as well. I can go back and show you another model in a second that is fully detailed. Now, if I went to my structure, you'll notice that I now have my rafters in there, and I have them with plumb cuts and so on. Okay, I'm actually going to go and undo that. Because now I'm going to show you how we're going to do trusses. Okay, so we know that our roof is 22 degrees, and I have this truss tool here, and we know that our overhang is 600 millimeters. I'm going to say 580, it allows me a little room for my face here. Okay, and I can include valley trusses, which means that essentially one truss will go up inside another, and I'm just going to go and put a couple of trusses in here for you so you can have a look. Okay, so I am going to include valley trusses, probably not on this one, and go submit, right, and I'm going to go from here to here, okay, and I'm just going to go, say, halfway through my roof, yeah, there, so, now it's going to take a second, it's doing a lot of work here, and you'll see the output very, very shortly. Okay, and now I have trusses in there according to there, and you can see over here that I won't want overhangs in these trusses, so I'm simply going to turn them off because my next roof is going to butt into here. I go back to my roof tool, and I want valley trusses that go up these trusses, so I'm going to include valley trusses, get into the bottom and go submit. And there is other tutorials that are more in-depth and detailed than this, and you'll notice it put in another little truss there. So we're getting a lot of information in there very quickly, and basically I can repeat this all the way around the house. So that is how structural works. Okay, if I go back to all, you'll notice that I have a roof on there, and now if I ran a section through here, so I run it, say, here, you'll see that I can see my trusses inside of that roof there, and if I moved it, say, this out a little bit, and I turn my sections off, which is all well and good for visualization. I understand that this needs to be into 2D, and this is why we have all of our elevation tools up here, which have been created when I clicked that first button there before, and sections. So say I went to my section, I'll turn it on and I'll move it to where I want it to be, and you'll see that this would be as I would want it for, say, drafting. Okay, go back to here, turn this off, and now I have a section cut through. Now these joists are running this way, and everything's running the way it should. Obviously the next thing it needs in there is a slab, because usually we actually set out rooms by our walls. My workflow process is to actually go through and draw my external walls first. I can go back and change joist locations at any time, and I think one major thing that is probably hasn't been spoken about here is what about when I want to put a set of stairs in. So we have a stair tool, which is very, very easy to use. I can simply click on the stairs, and I can put my stairs in according to genre of stair that I'm after. So let's say use, say, an L-shaped spine staircase here, and I'm just going to say put it here. I didn't even set the height of it. It's quite nice that it actually ran through the floor because it makes it easier for me to do a stairwell cutout. But it also has something here to add the header height, so we don't bump our head on the joist as we go up. So I'm going to go in here and go submit. And all say, let's have a look inside of there. All I'm doing is activating the cut. So I can have a look. Okay, and you'll notice that now I have the openings or the head heights of my stairs. Okay, so and turn this off to make it a little bit neater. And I'm actually going to select this floor here, so I click spacebar and I selected the floor, and I can go right click joist and I can add in a void. Add void. Now for me it's going to be easier to do it underneath here, so I'm simply going to go to here. And I'm basically, and you can even see that's in the center of a joist there. Where am I? Over to say here. I don't need to go all the way to the end here, but I can. If I had have written the right correct height in for the stairs there. Okay, you'll see now I have a void cut through for my stairs. I can then figure out how to engineer it, or I could send it to the engineer so that he could figure out how to engineer it. I still have this face in here that I use to draw my geometry, but you'll see that it cut all of my joists. I could also put in perimeter beams. So if I selected these joists, went back to edit my joists, edit joists, I can go and use perimeter beams, which will help me a lot with closing off my stairwell. And I need to go next, I need to tell it that I want it to go like that. And it now put perimeter beams in for my stairwell, which is going to make it a lot easier. And some of those beams will need to be pushed and pulled around, yet the information is there. So I think it's a good overview of structure. There's a lot of capacity with PlusSpec to do it, and obviously I need to reduce the height of those stairs in there. That's for another tutorial as well. You can check out the stair tutorial on our website. Okay, probably the most important thing, guys, and I'm not going to get caught up on it now, is I can actually do a bill of quantities according to what I'm looking at, and it's very important for feasibility studies for architects to make sure that the client can do it. So what I was looking at on screen is what estimated now. So if I had it turned on all, it would have estimated my bricks. And the engineering, we can see that we have a 310 UB at 5783 long, and it's 178 kilograms. My floor joist, here is all of my floor joists, and my group floor joists are the same length, are all there together, so we have our sizes. My timber framing, I have a cut length for every single piece of timber. I can reduce this down so I just know the total amounts of timber. So if I click these buttons here, essentially it says that I have total lengths of timber. I have 566 meters here, I have 398 meters here, and 1.335, and that will also come out in Imperial as well. Roof trusses, the same thing. I have 8 standard creeper roof trusses at 22 degrees with an overhang of 560 millimeters. And you'll notice that the truncated girders, the pitch and everything in there, that's very, very powerful. I have my set of stairs which are still turned on, and something has gone into layer 0. No, nothing there. I can go and tag the model up, and I can put safety concerns in, which is for another tutorial as well. The main reason for this tutorial, as I said, was for structure, and that structure is parametric, very, very powerful, yet we also have our 2D plans as we would see before. Alright guys, look, I hope it helps you out. If you have any questions, by all means go over to our forum and check it out. Righto guys, bye.